Hello, it's Blockchain here coming at you with another technical analysis update. For those of you just tuning in, I'm primarily an Elliott Wave trader using other areas of Confluence and other technical analysis to really complement my price analysis. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the charts. Before we dive into the charts, guys, again, just a quick reminder, and for those of you who are just joining, my website is now live, so make sure you guys click the link at the bottom of the video, jump on over, you can subscribe. I'm actually going to be sending out some email blasts that was going to have some of my market thoughts, analysis, and some news, and then on the website, make sure you jump over to the section here where I am actually giving you my #1 trading strategy for free. Just simply click on the get in touch and it will take you to a quick page where you'll actually go ahead and just sign up real quick. And that's how I know where to send the video walkthrough of my #1 trading strategy that is consistent, profitable, reliable, and applicable to any market. So again, thanks for the support, guys. We are at almost 100 subscribers. That is a huge milestone in my eyes, so I do want to say thank you for the support. I also did just start a Facebook group for trading as well, so it'll be on the bottom of the link, so make sure you guys jump over there and join it, and I hope to see you guys in there. So let's take a quick look at the chart. So I'm going to look at the daily right now for ETH just to kind of see where we are overall, a couple key important resistance zones, support zones, so on and so forth. So I'm actually looking at this, I've been kind of talking about this as a impulsive wave down on 1, 2, 3, 4, and then coming out for a fifth. It's still possible. However, this fourth wave is pretty extreme. I was hoping it would actually roll over around here, look a little bit better from a symmetry standpoint. However, it could still be a three-wave structure for a 535, and still make this overall as the WXY for the overall move down. Remember, WXY is three-wave structures made up. So there'd be a three-wave structure, and the W, the X, and the Y. And that will finish us off. So again, I look for confluence. Where are some important areas of support, resistance. So if actually I am looking for one more leg down, I've been talking about that leg down for a while, just because this overall move right here has been corrective overall in general. So you can kind of see right here with this one where we did have a good C wave. So if you look at this particular wave here for the W, where we had an A, a fairly deep B, and then up for a C for an expanded flat right here in this correction. You can see a pretty clear 5-wave structure going up. You can look at the difference between this one where it's just been choppy, it's been corrective, it's been messy, no really good clean count, lots of indecisiveness in the market in regards to where do we want to go. So obviously we had this pretty good drop, and that put us on the daily standpoint right back up into some areas of some EMAs and MAs, where we actually have the 200 that has been acting as pretty heavy resistance for ETH right now for the MAs at 190. So if we do break that, that would be pretty big for the bulls. So that is one area that I'm looking for. Really right there, that 190 standpoint is going to be pretty important. But we've got rejected there so far. We also have, this trend line coming down, and we're kind of getting to a decision point for ETH in regards to where do we need to go. Like I said, I am looking for another leg down. And areas of confluence from a fib perspective, we have this cluster of 3 right here that looks to be a pretty supportive zone. So we have the 1.236, 1.382, and the extended 4.236. all in regards to the WXY, the ABC, and even if this was a five-wave structure down, instead of the 3.618, finishing off the fifth wave at a 4.236, which is right around $50 for ETH. So depending on time frame, towards the end of May, that we could also potentially put us back here for this trendline support as well. But this whole thing looks corrective, so I just don't see us kicking off impulsively. Now we can come down and come down to a smaller retracement, say 1.618, and blast off from there, or the 618 blast off from there from a five-wave move. But again, I look for areas of confluence, and with everything still happening in the world right now, it's kind of weird to see a bunch of markets pumping, but I think it may be just a short-lived rally, in my opinion, and we'll kind of see what that turns into. But getting to a point on the decision time. I've also been looking at a few of the Gann charts as well, and we did just pass a pivot point, so it'll be interesting seeing when or if how soon we get a decision on that standpoint. These ones aren't necessarily the strongest. The greens and the reds tend to be the strongest pivot points based upon time. So we'll kind of see what that turns into, but we could have already potentially played out just from this little dip right here. Like I said, they're not exactly that strong. So let's go ahead and look at the 4 hour real quick. So I just want to start at a little bit of a higher time frame and then work into a smaller, and really kind of go from there. So again, I have this labeled all as very, very corrective. Nothing about it in my eyes could potentially be impulsive. One thing that I have seen out there potentially as a leading diagonal, and from a symmetrical standpoint, I don't see it in my eyes. The only way you could label it from what I look at is, if this was a five wave, came back down, and then so that way maybe, so it's a little bit thicker so it's easier to see. So that way maybe, and then we drop out, and then this is starting our wave. Oops. This is starting our wave one of our wave three. But even then, it's the way that I'm looking at this for ETH. I mean, that looks very three wavy, very corrective. So I mean, I can't make five waves. I mean, maybe if this was just an overall extended fifth, but then we don't really have a good one. So I mean, it looks like a zigzag in my opinion. So the only other way potentially to look at it is if this was a three-wave structure down here, and then we started our wave one was five wave two, and then again, then we come to this one. But again, it looks very three wavy in my opinion, and it's hard for me to say that has five waves in it. So that's what I'm looking at. It still looks corrective in my eyes. I am still, candidly in a short position. Even though we did have this little pump up, and then we'll go to the 15-minute and we'll recap, because that was one I was really looking at for the most recent price action on my video yesterday. So if you recall, I was looking at another leg down, and turning this into a overall impulsive five-wave structure, because right here we did hit the 1.618, which is a measurement for expanded C wave. Let's bring that one up a little bit. There we go. Which is the measurement for expanded C. So I was looking at this flag out, which it did to an extent, but it just went too far. And that's, ultimately got this little pump up, and that's was ultimately the deciding factor of this was just going to be a C wave for ETH. So still looking at this three wave. This again looks very three wave. We did have a pretty clean five wave move right here for the C. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up for the fifth. Finish that off. In which my eyes, this is going to turn this into a larger ABC. J, B, and then C. So remember, with 3 waves inside A, 3 waves inside B for a 5 wave down for a C. Now, if this is a 5 wave, then it's an ABC. If it has another 3 wave structure, then we're looking at this as a WXY, another complex correction that's going to drag on a little bit further, which ultimately means we will need to bounce up if this is overall an ABC. So we'll still need to come up and bounce a little bit from the C. But potentially, if this is the ABC that I'm looking for, where are the targets of the C wave? We can't come all the way down to 1.618, 149, and really kind of anywhere in between. So we have the 618 for 172, and the 1.618 of 149. So really anywhere in between there is technically where a C wave can go, and we just want to pay attention to the wave structure of how it's forming on the wave down. So overall, it seems to be moving fairly impulsively. So I'd have to dive into the smaller time frame. I haven't looked at this really since the drop here, but this potentially could be a completed wave one, come back up for a little bit, and then start for wave two. It is dropping a little aggressive, so we'll kind of just ultimately see what it plays out to. And then ultimately that can really give us our decision for what we can come down to. But overall, that's what I'm looking for. We'll pay attention to the wave structure as it comes down, and I'll throw a couple price labels on there. There and there. And then the other piece that I did want to take a look at, let me actually go to the 1 hour, where we do have a pretty decent trend line. Actually have it sucked up in there. And I'll just tighten it up a little bit there. So again, not perfect. I just want to try again, get an idea. But we've been riding this trend line the entire way up. And that's really what we want to take a look at as well. And again, we want to look for areas of confluence. So we have the 618 that can land right here at 172. Again, we'll pay attention to the wave structure as it comes down, because we can hit this as, say, an end of a wave, as say end of a third wave, come back up, and then we'll get an extended fifth to come back down, tag to 1-to-1, which we would break that trend line, which would be fairly bearish. But we have broken it, but we kind of popped right back up when we found support on this 200 MA right here, or EMA. Right back here for this X wave. So we have broken it before, and we have actually kind of just bounced right back up right into it. And then also, again, look for areas of confluence, and potentially some interesting things to look at. Actually want to go back out here to the daily, because if we add the volume back on here, really this entire move up, you kind of see the volume, where volume has just been declining this entire move up on the daily. And that's one thing that we'll want to pay attention to as well. And that just generally indicates that we will have a fairly large move coming up. And that's definitely something that we will want to pay attention to as it moves forward and as it develops and as it progresses. And when we look at the 1 hour, again on my GAN box, we did find resistance up here at the 187. And on the 1 hour, it seems to be playing out a little bit cleaner in regards to these price point pivots. And we do have one coming up. Looks like it'll be tomorrow morning on my time. So it'll be interesting to see what this looks like, and potentially what it can play out. But if you're going back in the history, the red ones tend to seem to be the strongest ones, where we had a pretty good pivot here. Ultimately pivoted after a little bit, pivoted back up. And this one was a strong pivot. So it kind of just indicates a time when price will pivot. Not always 100% reverse, but maybe, reverse for a little bit and then continue back in the same direction. So we'll want to pay attention to see how this plays out, because it does tend to react pretty strongly off of the 45-degree angles. But these lines are support and resistance as well as it progresses and as it moves. So we'll be really looking for this one if it does ultimately come down this far, but we would have to break that trend line before we even get to there. So overall, guys, that is my thoughts on ETH. And again, if you guys like the content, make sure you guys smash the likes and ring that little bell for the subscribes. We're almost at 100 subscribers so far. Like I said, it's a huge milestone, so I do appreciate the support, guys. If we can continue to move up, I do always want to throw the bear count and the bull count, but this is the way that I'm leaning. We can always continue to move up. It would be really corrective at this point, but if this ended up being a little bit more of an impulsive wave where we came back down, reset, and then where this was just potentially overall a wave one, come back down, and then ultimately blast off and break the trend line resistance. If we do break it, we will want to make sure that we come through with volume, that we come through with power, or else we will just kind of tend to fizzle out and just drop right back into it. So I'll see you guys hopefully in the Facebook group, in the Discord. Make sure you guys check out the website, and I'll talk to you guys later. So let's dive into a little bit of Bitcoin. So again, kind of starting off at the daily, looking at the macro. I'm looking at this overall move down as a WXY potentially. It could be a little bit more complex into a WXYXZ depending what we're looking at. Really how detailed we want to go with it. But overall complex correction down, and which ultimately would, based upon what we have here, we would need another leg down to complete either really the three-wave structure down, which potentially could just be a zigzag down. So potential targets for a zigzag down, we can really go all the way to the 1.618, which would be kind of crazy, but it's right around $800. More likely looking around these ones here at the 1.236, around $3,000 ultimately, and potentially 2,100 at the 1.382. Depending how bearish we get, but those kind of crazy targets. But I'm looking for one more leg down, and we can have a few stops along the way. Again, I'm just looking for areas of confluence in regards to what we can look at from a WXY. Obviously, if it's a WXYXZ, these will change a little bit, but what we can look at is this is a three-wave structure, pulling the fibs from what would end up being an A and a B and a C for a potential zigzag. And then this is where we can start looking at targets. So $4,000, $3,000, 2,100, somewhere around within here. I'm looking to have another leg down. We can actually really kind of double bottom right here, roughly around the 0.5 of that move down. And that would be at the roughly around the $4,000. That would also potentially put us at where this trend line support is here. We did have this one here that we did break. However, we didn't really break it with power. We kind of just rolled through it. We did actually do that right here too. We broke the trend line, we kind of bounced on top of it, and then we just fell right back in. So we might kind of just do that as we roll through and then just fall right back through, creating that other 5-wave down that we're looking for this C wave. So that is what I'm looking for, a little bit more on the macro. Again, just being aware of it, and this one is ever changing because obviously the smaller time frame will make up what the larger time frame looks like. And I do also want to take a look at the Gantt box for Bitcoin as well, where we are coming up to a pivot point right here on April 30th. So a few days away, about a week away is what it'll be. And really what we're looking for from that is, again, just a pivot point. So when we get to these points, we tend to see some kind of pivot reaction. and that's what we're looking for overall. It's, based upon the law of vibration, and then we also want to look at it from a confluence perspective in regards to what lines are we riding, what ones are support and resistance. So you can kind of see we did ride this one up for quite a bit. Lost momentum. Now we're moving on this one here, and we're coming up to really a point where it is going to have to be a decision. Is it going to roll over, or are we going to pop up and break through? That is really what we're looking for. And I am leaning a little bit more to the downside. We do have a lot of resistance that is above us currently, even on the daily. I mean, this 13 EMA is really what's pushing us down, and there's a lot of different ones that are above it on stronger ones from a higher time frame as well. So that is what we're looking for on the daily. So let's go ahead and dive into the 4 hour real quick. So again, I am looking at this as more of a complex correction. I don't see this really, in my opinion, any other way to make anything out of it. It just isn't supportive and anything impulsive, in my opinion. But we are starting to get a point where, again, we're starting to get squeezed. We have volume that's been tapering off ever since we started down here, where volume's been slowing down. And we kind of see that we have, pretty big moves, and then we get some excitement, and then it dwindles, and then gets super low, and then we get some excitement again. But we are kind of consolidating here in this zone here. And kind of one thing to pay attention to, again, the Gant box said April 30th. Well, as we get to, if we continue to consolidate in this triangle area-ish, it's not a triangle in my opinion, but we can still bounce around in these areas of support and resistance from what we're creating. But April 30th, that is towards the end of the triangle here, and also a point depending on how you drew your trend line, where we did kind of roll through it, or if it's based upon some of the very top two, trend lines can be somewhat subjective. We can be coming to a point of apex on that trend line as well. So April 30th is really going to be, in my opinion, a decision date that I'm going to be looking for in regards to which way we go. Now, it can happen a little before, it can happen a little bit after, but somewhere around the 30th of April, I am looking to have, a pretty large decision made. In my opinion, I am leaning to the downside. I think that this has just been a it's just been a short term bounce. You can kind of see we bounce, we're just rolling over. We've done that a couple times where we've actually came up from a pretty good support zone, and we just ended up rolling over. Probably should have done something different than the 1 hour, but I mean, right here is a great example. We had all this power, we came through, and we just rolled right over until we found support again. So I am again leaning towards the downside, but we'll see. We can move up correctively as well. This can be a three-wave motion with a B wave, and then we come with an impulse up for a C. And in my opinion, that would create overall, on a larger scale of things, just to kind of, again, an A, B, and a C up like that, a three wave structure, to have again a larger scale, A down, larger B, and then down again for a C. So we can move up correctively all day long, but we ultimately would have to come back down and reset before we can really take off and have some things running. So I'm pretty excited on the overall very large macro count that goes back, from a couple of years, and see what Bitcoin can ultimately turn into a few years down the road. However, right now I think with everything going on in the world and with the current state of the markets, I think that we will ultimately have another little rollover here, find some support, potentially at a double bottom, maybe a little bit below, and really kind of take off from there. So let's look at the smaller time frames, 7 to the 15-minute. And if you guys are part of the Facebook group, I did post this a little bit ago, where we can look at 70 to 100 is just a huge area of resistance right now for Bitcoin. Immediately rejected here. We did come through with a little bit of power, but the bears stepped in right away. We bounced around for a little bit, and it's just been, again, rejected, came back up for a little bit, got rejected, again got rejected. So it's been a huge area of resistance, and that's definitely something that's overall, the market, the bears are kind of really proving their point right here, and we've just been unable to break it. So we'll see what this turns into. Again, looking to be fairly wedgy in the time being. And again, really that April 30th, even on the 15-minute, it's standing out. So that's something to be paying attention to. But right now, I am looking for a C wave down. I am still in my short position, and some areas of confluence which we can come down. So C wave target, the 618, 786, 1-to-1 would put us right back here on this trend line. So if we do plan on bouncing around in this zone a little bit, depending on what area, what level of support we want to look at. We have this one right here at the 68.50 mark. We're going down to the 66.30. So really this whole zone, again, we'll pay attention to the overall wave structure and how it's coming down. And we'll really utilize that and how we are going to make our decision for our targets. But looks like, in my opinion, we're going to kind of just bounce around a little bit, get squeezed, and make our decision in about a week or so, from a larger scale where we are ultimately going to go. So right here in the zone, bears got to step in. If not, then I'm going to start looking a little bit more further towards my downside targets, starting off around the $5,000 mark, ultimately going down to the $2,000. So that's what I'm looking at, guys. Short term, a little bit of a long term. And I will keep you guys posted on video updates. And again, if you like my content, smash the likes, ring that little bell, subscribe. I want to say thank you for everyone who's shown support in my channel so far. You guys are awesome. I really do mean it. And I will see you guys on Facebook, see you guys in the Discord, and I will talk to you later.